This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 8.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 8, and today's guest is Rohan Gilkes. Rohan has built many interesting businesses over the past few years, but today we'll be concentrating on one of his biggest businesses, Maids In Black, which is a housekeeping business in the USA. Now, Rohan has a really interesting story to tell us about this business, and for the next 45 minutes, I'll be drilling his brain, asking him every single question that I think you would also ask when trying to start similar kind of business. So let's get to it, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Hey, Rohan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate it.
I'd love to start with you telling us a little bit more about yourself and about the business that you're in, and well, just give us the details on these two subjects.
Sure. So my background is in accounting, and I worked in corporate for quite a bit. And then I started to realize that I wanted to pursue more freedom, just to be able to be an entrepreneur and be able to make decisions about my life and how I spend my time. And I started trying to learn internet marketing because that was probably going to be the easiest path towards building a business. Spent about 3 or 4 years learning everything I could about online marketing and so on, and ended up building Maids In Black. And that's kind of the super rough story on my path so far.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So can you tell us more about the Maids In Black? What kind of business this is?
Sure. It's really an online platform that connects people that are looking to get their homes cleaned with home cleaners. So you would come online, you would schedule the date and time that you would like to get your place cleaned, and check out online, everything online, credit card only. And we send folks out to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you could say that pretty much the whole business model that you've built is actually uniquely online.
Yeah, 100% online. Everything takes place online. Mm-hmm.
You don't have like TV ads or magazine ads or anything.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, we haven't tried TV or magazine, but my expertise is online marketing. So 100% of all of our marketing or customer acquisition takes place online. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So how did you get the idea to start this kind of business?
Sure. So I had a lady that used to clean my home a couple of years ago, and at the time she was asking me to build her a website because she needed a website to promote her business. And, you know, what I was charging at the time to build a website was quite a bit. And so I gave her a proposal where, you know, I could have built her a website. She pays me for it, but she probably would not have gotten any jobs from it because it would require the part of the equation that she does not have a background in, and that would be internet marketing. So I figured I could build a website, keep it. I do all the marketing. I send her the jobs. She still makes what she would charge, and I would be able to charge a bit more and do higher level branding and so on, and make a percentage of the jobs that she do. And that's exactly how we started.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
So we started with someone you knew personally who did housekeeping, and then eventually, I guess, you grew it into a full-blown service with a lot of employees in a way, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And tell me, the technical part of it all, did you build it, or are you using some kind of software that facilitates the whole booking, the payment system, all of that? How did you get to that?
Okay, cool. So when I first started, because I'm not a technical person at all. So all of my websites or projects I work on, I hire people to do that work. Um, so when I first started, I was just using a WordPress back end, and I hired a guy on Odesk that would do like the PHP work to make the booking form work and so on. And we would use PayPal, and that was the process. Something we just kind of hacked together, and it seemed seamless as far as the customer was concerned. But it was just like a PHP job on WordPress. But since then, we hired some really, really good developers, and we created a platform for people to book online, and that's called Launch 27. And that's what I use, and other companies use that as well now for their businesses.
So now you're actually providing a platform to help people with building similar kind of websites to allow booking and payments and so on, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's kind of a hole in the market as it relates to technology for local service businesses. So that technology could be, WordPress themes. It could be the back end software to run their business. It could be the credit card merchant processing. That whole deal is kind of an underserved market in general. So I had to end up building something for myself, and people saw it and liked it, and so I made it available for other companies as well.
That's great. I notice more and more that a lot of software and plugins and themes, stuff like that, become pretty profitable and pretty popular as a result of someone needing something that doesn't exist. Like you said, filling a hole in an industry. So people end up building something for themselves, and it's so good, and people want it so much. It's basically helping people, right? You're helping other businesses, and it picks up. I guess that's what happened with your platform.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what you said. It started with me having to build something for myself, and I wanted to build it good because it was for myself. So I wanted, a good quality product. And then other people saw it, and they were like, "Hey, how much will it cost?" And that's what brought it to market in that way. But you're absolutely right. That's exactly how it worked.
That's really cool, man. I'm actually using it's called Smart Podcast Player, I think. It's a player that I'm using on my blog to play the podcasts. And the player was built by Pat Flynn, who's a very known blogger and internet marketer. And he built it exactly for the reason. He needed a nice player for his podcast, and it simply didn't exist. So he built it up, and once people saw it on his website, he wasn't going to sell it, but everyone was like, "I want it, I'll pay you whatever you want. Give me that player, looks so good." See, another example, and he didn't plan to make money on it, but people just like, give me, I'll give you money, just give it to me.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome. And could you tell once again, where could people find that platform?
Sure, it's on launch27.com.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Okay, so let's go back to Maids in Black. Can you elaborate a little bit more on for how long you've had it, and what has been your experience profit-wise from that business?
Sure. So we started, right now I'm at the 3.5 month, 3.5 year point. And last year we did just a little bit over $2 million in revenue.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of blew up.
And was that the over $2 million, was it in a year, or was it in like 2 years and a half total?
That was just last year.
Oh, just 2014 alone was over $2 million.
Yeah, just 2014 alone. Yep.
Wow, that's incredible. And how local are you, or how global are you with that service with Maids in Black?
We're currently only in one city, so we're in the DC metro area, Washington DC, and that area extends a little bit into Maryland and extends a little bit into Virginia. So it's one metro area that we're in right now, and we're hoping, as this year goes, that we'll be able to add some additional metro areas.
Sorry, man, I'm a bit shocked. This is actually pretty amazing, and I would love my listeners to maybe rewind a little bit and listen to that again, guys. Rohan is doing housekeeping business where he does not do any cleaning at all himself. He made over $2 million in 2014 alone with Maids in Black, and it's actually limited at this moment. It's limited to one metro area, so it's not across all of the states or across few countries. It's one single metro area, and this kind of income is possible. So when you think local, don't think it's way too small and you can't make any money with it. Rohan is a proof right here, live proof that local could work very well as long as you do it smart and as long as you know what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's and it's one of those things where there are a lot of competitive inefficiencies. So there's a lot of ways that you can create strong competitive advantages in local markets, because a lot of the competition, they're not very tech savvy. They may not understand internet marketing very well. They may not understand website development that well. They may not understand branding and customer acquisition and so on. So there are a lot of ways that people can go into the local space and have competitive advantages right away.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I look, as an example, I look locally in Montreal. We're about 3 million people, right? You could say it's a pretty big city.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that a lot of local businesses still try to avoid online as much as possible. And not because they don't want to, it's simply because they're scared. They have no idea how it works. They don't know how to penetrate that whole online world.
Yes.
And they take it for granted what they have. So as long as they have some clients coming in, they're like, well, it's fine. I'm still not broke, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody would come in and explain to them properly all the possibilities and all the growth that they could have, I'm sure some local businesses would go with you and work with you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And is Maids in Black the only local kind of business that you're doing, or are you doing anything else with local companies?
Sure. Yeah. So once I figured out that that this competitive advantage is there, I'm adding I went forward to add additional local companies. So we have Lawn Tribe, which is a lawn service provider for people, simple lawn mowing jobs, hedge cutting, and so on. So we do that with Lawn Tribe. We also have Backpack Moves, which is a moving company. And, we're kind of adding additional verticals as we go along. But once I realized that, this is something that I understand well and I can compete well, we're going to continually add additional lines of services and additional businesses.
That sounds great,
Yeah.
man. And I was just thinking about, you mentioned movers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that in Montreal, once again, well, in the whole province of Quebec here in Eastern Canada, the movers are always looking for work except July 1st. I think it is July 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, so July 1st, what happens in Canada, in Quebec, once again, it's mostly Quebec related. We have, it's kind of a national moving day. What happens that a lot of people's, most leases go up on July 1st.
Ah.
And for some reason, a lot of people don't stay more than 1 or 2 years in an apartment that they're renting.
Okay.
They move to another apartment and to another part of the city, but like a huge part of the city is moving. So July 1st is huge chaos because there's so many like moving trucks and people moving stuff around. The streets are filled with like garbage because people throw away their old couches and whatnot, right? So the moving companies, they're booked solid like a month in advance or even more for that specific period of time. So let's say, the last day of June and the 2 first days of July, it's like everybody's moving and it's super crazy.
Yeah.
So you can't get a single moving company. There's no way you'll find anybody move you, let's say, if you call a week in advance. It's impossible, right?
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really crazy. But for the rest of the year, it's not that great for them. So movers, I know that they make good money for the service, but it all ends up with, do you have clients to make that money? Because you could charge all you want, but if you don't have any clients calling you or booking you, then you're not making much.
Right. Absolutely. So, and some of that, so that's a situation where is very, very cyclical. And I'm also in some cyclical industries like lawn care. We only do lawns about 8 months out of the year, so it's not as bad as movers in Canada. But
Yeah.
that's something you have to think about when you look at the industries that you go into, how cyclical they are, and how you're able to do some other things in the time when there's downtime.
Well, see, like for once again, I'll give you us as example because we have pretty much half a year. It's really cold and snow.
Hmm.
Not for half a year, but we have snow maybe 4 months, 5 months out of the year. And so a lot of our lawn care guys in winter, they do snow removal.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's the same company, but like you said, the lawn care, hey, winter, it's not that you're not making much, you're not making any money at all. So you have to figure out something, and most of them have big pickups to move the equipment for lawn care, so they use the same pickups for snow removal and stuff like that.
Right.
That's actually another service that I'm thinking now could be looked at, especially in more northern states and Canada.
Hmm.
Snow removal could be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity, man. You just got to find something and go after it. The opportunity is there.
Yeah, well, after I started looking at kind of following you on your adventures online, every business I look at, I'm like, ooh, money. That's money, that's money, that's money. Like, you could improve this, you could improve that.
Hmm.
And it's really crazy.
Yep.
Okay, so I'd like to jump back into Maids in Black. And one really important phrase there that you mentioned, you said competitive advantage. Okay, so I could look up cleaning services in my city, and I find some big cleaning company that's been around for the past 37 years. Why would I prefer to work with you rather than those dinosaurs of the industry?
Sure.
What's the competitive advantage that Maids in Black have?
Yeah, so one of those competitive advantages are going to be around the actual onboarding process. So right now, if you decide that you would like your home cleaned, you're going to go online and you're going to do a search. When you do that search, you're going to see some results and you're going to click on a couple of different websites and you're going to realize that, oh, I have to call this person to try to book service. When you call, chances are they may not answer the phone because they may be out in the field actually doing work. Or they're going to say, well, we're going to need to give you a quotation. Maybe we'll come to see your house tomorrow or something like that. So it's a really high tension, like difficult onboarding process, typically. If you go to Maids in Black, you can click and see exactly when we're available. We may be available today. You fill out the form, you put your credit card, and you hit book now, and we show up at the time that you request service, and that's it. So it's a super simple, streamlined process. So right now, like people from our generation, they're used to booking online, they're used to ordering food online, they go to Amazon and they can have stuff delivered the next day. They're used to very fast, quick, same, next day shipping, very, very quick processes that happen online. And so extending local services and making that available to the people that are used to instant solutions, that is really our competitive advantage.
That is actually totally true. I never thought of that until you mentioned it. But now that I think about it, yeah, people don't like it. It's not that they might be busy and they might have to send someone to do a quote on your house. People just don't like calling generally anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're at your friend's house. I don't know if it ever happens to you, but if you're like with your friends and you guys decide to order pizza, there's always this discussion like who's gonna call because nobody wants to call and order. And so it's like, no, you call,
Yep.
And it just never ends.
Yep.
And yeah, the pizza places, they do have, or their online kind of service, they win it sometimes, because I remember this actually happening when people say, oh, just go to I think Double Pizza it is, right? Go to Double Pizza, they have online ordering. And yeah, you don't have to call anybody. That's actually really big, and I haven't realized that until just right now. That it's so much better to have the stuff instant, and well, that's what we like.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to a really. I have two like main questions, I guess, about the Maids in Black. First one being, how do you find people to work for that company? How do you find the maids or the housekeepers to work for you?
Yeah. So what we try to do is find people that are already very, very at what they do. So we would, post on sites like Indeed.com or Care.com or any place where people offer their services or are looking for jobs. And we try to find people that are already in the industry, and we let them know, like, hey, here are the number of jobs that you could be doing per week. It's probably a lot more than you're doing now. Or here's how much you can make based on our experiences. For teams that do really well, they make more. And we just reach out to hire people like we would find like you would hire any person for a position, and that's how we get going. So usually it is difficult to find people, and I think that's not unlike hiring a person for any position. It's going to be very difficult to find people that are going to represent your company well. So that's always going to be a challenge, but it happens online. They come to our website and apply, and we screen them and background check and interview, and we do trial cleanings. So as much as we can do to weed out the people that will not be a good fit, and then we work with the people that make it through that process.
So it is pretty complex process actually to find good people to work with.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think that's going to be the case regardless of your business. The people part of the solution is the toughest. You can solve technology very, very easily, and you can solve systems and processes and so on as much as you can. But your entire business success is going to depend on the quality of the people that you find to work with, and that's going to be a challenge no matter what.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And do you have a big turnaround of these employees for your company?
I don't think so, because I feel like we've done a fairly good job of screening for fit. So finding the people that would fit well within our system, and making sure that they're compensated fairly, and then and I think also we've done a good job at streamlining systems that make it comfortable for folks to work with us. So like we pay every week, and the money is like automatically in your bank account by 10 a.m. on Fridays. Like, so stuff like that builds like, trust and consistency, and, it really, really helps. And so a lot of people that we work with, they would say, oh, we work with this one company, but they pay us late. And so they have all these issues working in these industries. And so we kind of streamlined both the onboarding of customers, and we've also streamlined how we manage the folks that we work with.
That's really smart, actually, to make them trust you and make them see that they could depend on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess if they are the good ones will not leave if they're satisfied.
Yeah. If you keep them happy, and they keep our customers happy, and everybody's happy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I'm asking you because I was thinking of it, and I have someone who has who works in a local housekeeping business, right?
Yeah.
And they told me that this is one of their biggest issues, because people just don't turn up.
Yeah.
They hire people to do the work, and when the time comes to work, they just don't show up. That's it, and you can't reach them. And then they call you a week later. They're like, "Yeah, what's up? Do you have work for me?" It's, well, sorry. If we called you and you told us you're available and you confirmed that you'll be at the client's house at this time, and you never showed up and you never called us, it's,
Yeah.
So that's kind of also my question about how do you find the good ones, and how can you rely on them? Because I don't know, has it ever happened to you that a client booked a cleaning and the person didn't show up?
Yeah, that has happened, and that's going to happen. I think that there is going to be some percentage of what we call breakage, and that and that's going to happen no matter what industry you're in. Any industry where you have a company where people are dealing with customers on your behalf, there's going to be some percentage where the outcomes are not good, and those outcomes may be bad around a variety of different scenarios. So one of them could be the person showed up late, One of them could be the person did not show up. Another one could be the person showed up and did not do a very good job. Another one could be the person showed up and did a very good job, but they stained something or they broke something, or so there's all of these different scenarios that are intrinsic to this business and any other business that entails going out to a customer's home. So we try to, of course, keep those to a minimum by working with very, very solid people, and also by having like very, very customer service where if something goes wrong, we work very quickly and aggressively to fix it. But you're never going to be able to decrease those instances to zero, no matter what your industry is.
Yeah, I'm sure you cannot prevent it like 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the simple fact that people get into accidents and they get sick,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't even, you could have the most reliable person in the world, but if that person gets in a car accident while on the way to the client's home, there's not much you can do about it, So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you guys are really, really try hard to work at your customer service and to solve these problems as soon as possible and as aggressively as possible, like you said.
Yeah. What you'll find is that customers are more reasonable than sometimes they are given credit for. So so a customer would like people that are just getting into the business may be like, oh man, like, so what if some person doesn't show up? This happens, and the customer is mad. But what the reality is more like, something goes wrong, the customer reach out to you, or if you know about it first, you reach out to the customer and you offer a solution, that goes beyond their expectations. So hey, we'll come tomorrow and we'll take 50% off for the inconvenience, or here is some flowers or something to make up for a mistake. You'll find that if you do really, really well by your customer and treat them really, really well and come up with a solution to the problems that they face, you almost end up in a better situation than if something didn't go wrong. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's something that I've learned along the way. Like, you go above and beyond and fix it as fast as possible and make that person as happy as possible. They will talk about that experience, even though it started with you making a mistake.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. And I've spoke to someone a few days ago, someone I know personally who sells on eBay, on Amazon. And well, the product he sells are not that expensive. So let's say products are under $10 most of the time, right? And he said that sometimes they get a really furious client because let's say a client ordered a new phone charger because their phone charger broke. So they receive it and it doesn't work, right? As a client, you're going to be pissed off. And what he said that they do is they refund the client, plus they send them a brand new charger free of charge.
Wow.
And it's not the same case as yours because you're playing with bigger money, so you can't just do stuff for free but for $10 it's not really a big deal. So they do that, and that client that was really furious and I was almost sending them threats. 2 days later, that client is leaving them a glowing 5-star review on Amazon, and it cost the guy $10. He lost $10, whatever. It doesn't matter. Your reputation is worth more than $10.
Absolutely.
Like you said, just go beyond and do something that they really don't expect, and you'll make an unsatisfied client to a really happy one who'll recommend you to others because of your customer service. That's really huge these days.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the other big question that I had is, all right, so you've got your people, you've done the screening, you know that most of them are pretty good. How do you actually market your business, and how do you find clients to go to your website?
Sure. So that's the $1 million question, right?
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So
actually, $2 million question apparently.
$2 million question. That's funny. So we kind of approach it in a very systematic way, where our goal is to get as many qualified customers to see our website from as many places as possible. And so we start with that, meaning that there is no one place where we're going to get most of our traffic, or we're not going to focus on any one place. We want to have traffic from as many places as possible that will send us qualified customers. Now, at the local level, that list is not terribly long. You're talking about review sites first, which will be Thumbtack, Yelp, Angie's List. Then you're talking about social media, Instagram. Then you're talking about search, which is primarily going to be Google, and both organic returns, and then the local search returns is like a Google 7-pack is what people call it.
Yeah.
Then you're talking about influencers. So you're talking about local bloggers that would, write a review for you or run a contest for you or something like that. You're talking about real estate agents that you can connect and build a relationship with. And those folks would have like a lot of move in, move out jobs and so on. And then you're talking about, you can start to get a little bit more creative and look at apartment complexes and build relationships with people at the front desks and so on. So that's kind of like the gamut of it. And to say it again, it would be your review sites, your social media sites, and your search. And those would primarily be free. So there's a lot of traffic that's completely free to you. And then you can add your paid search traffic, which will be AdWords, and then Facebook ads, and then Yelp ads, and so on. And that's kind of like the entire profile for building one of these online businesses.
Basically, you're trying to be everywhere possible to find your clients. And that's really, really smart, because a lot of people, you probably know since you've been into internet marketing a few years ago, 5 years ago or so, a lot of people built online businesses based strictly on, let's say, Google, either organic or AdWords, Google paid ads. And then a small change in the algorithm, either organic or paid ads, regardless, in one of them, and then boom, your whole business goes under.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's scary stuff. And yeah, what you're doing, it's actually really smart. And I suggest that to everyone as well, regardless if you're doing local business or if you're doing an online business. Diversify as much as possible. Diversify everything, your earnings, your traffic, everything you can. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's a golden rule of making money, I guess.
Absolutely. Diversify. I'm with you 100%. And we are trying to diversify by industry, by city, by source of traffic, by services that we offer, and so on. So 100%. And when you think that you're done diversifying, there's another way to look at it so that you're protected if and when something goes wrong. Yeah.
Are you applying the same system to all your local businesses?
Yeah, it's really the same system. It's the same thing over and over again. The only thing that changes is the actual service that's being performed when folks get there. But otherwise, it's the same thing. What you'll find is that some things are going to work better for based on the industry. So, and that's something that you kind of pick up as you kind of build a business. You're like, oh, well, Thumbtack works very, very well for lawn care, but it does not work as well for home cleaning. And so you'll kind of figure those out as you go along. But for the most part, it's the same thing, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to mention that Google Local, or the 7-pack, it's this stuff is so powerful. And it's still, I find in many industries, it's so easy to get in that 7-pack on top of Google for local businesses. And people who are listening to this, if you just look up local businesses in your city, look for keywords, not for actual business name, but look for keywords. Let's say lawn care, New York, or stuff like that. And you'll notice that in many cases it'll be like 6 out of 7. They just ended up in the top 7 by accident. They're just there because Google said, well, no one else is trying, but we have to fill it up, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I've noticed, because I've helped some local businesses to get into that top 7. And I mean, I didn't just get them in the 7. I got them in the top of that 7. I got them like number 1, number 2. And it wasn't that much effort. And I was like, why aren't people doing that? And well, then I figured, first of all, they're not online marketers, so they have no clue how to do it. And second of all, a lot of them don't realize the power of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. It's money just waiting to be picked up if they took some time to get there. But yeah, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and it's like you mentioned before that when you said our generation wants stuff instantly, the same thing actually goes for that Google 7-pack. You don't want to scroll down. If you're looking for a local pizza place, you don't want to scroll down. You see the 7 places in front of you, you're going to pick one of them, and that's it. That's done. Cool. So you told me you're kind of thinking of expanding Maids in Black to other cities, I guess?
Yeah, so that's something we're going to look at. We had started an expansion at one point, but I think it was a little bit too early. I didn't have the support staff and so on to help with that process. But now we do. So later this year, that's going to be our main focus, to add 1 or 2 cities and slowly start to see how we can get across the country. I mean, it's wide open. I mean, the opportunity is there. So we'll see what we can do.
I guess you'll have to hire, I would say, local managers.
Yeah.
Right, for this kind of thing.
Yeah, we probably have to hire some local managers. So yeah, we're going to start slowly until we kind of build up some institutional knowledge and figure out the best way to approach the problem. But yeah, it's probably going to look like some local managers, and then see how that plays out.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so tell me, for the original one, how well, now that you look at it and you could kind of analyze everything that has been done in the past 3 years and a half, how hard was it to do everything? I don't know if I'm asking the right question or if I'm asking it the right way, but let's say if you didn't have the knowledge that you have now, would you start that again?
Yeah, if I didn't have the knowledge I had now, I would. Yeah, I would have. My only regret is I did not know about it and had the skills to start it a lot earlier.
So you would still do it?
Yeah, 100%.
And how hard was it to do?
It was hard.
It was hard.
Yeah. So there are going to be some built-in advantages if you're really good online and you understand how to build traffic online and you understand how to do really good branding and so on. You're going to have some advantages. But it's very difficult to ramp up a company. Those first few months of getting traction going, and finding out, okay, you have more cleaners than you have customers, or you have more customers than you have cleaners. That whole process is very difficult to get sorted out. So the beginning is going to be, you're going to really have to put some time into it and be really obsessive over the first 6 months or so. And at that point was when things started to make sense a little bit more, and I got some systems down, started to become a little bit more predictable. But the beginning is tough, and it's going to be tough in almost whatever business you start. Yeah.
I want this to serve as a reminder to the listeners of the podcast that any business is hard, at least at some point. A lot of people have this notion for some reason, especially when it comes to online marketing or online businesses. A lot of people have this notion that there is a shortcut to millions. You just have to find it, and usually it only costs you $49.95 to buy that shortcut. Yeah. And well, you end up with no shortcut. You just end up $50 less in your bank account. But like any business, it takes it takes a lot of hard work, and I think it takes a lot of persistence, because if you're doing stuff and it's not working out, you have this urge sometimes to just quit and say, screw that, I'll just go get a job.
Yep.
And that persistence, if you go at it and you keep doing eventually it doesn't have a choices to start working for you, right? But that's the way I see it.
Absolutely.
I just think a lot of people give up too soon.
Yes, I agree with that. If what you're doing is not magical, so some people kind of like reach for magical goals, right? Like, okay, I want to build the next Facebook. Now, the probability of that happening is very, 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 very low.
Yeah.
And so, but if you want to build something that's very practical, which I personally like very practical problems. I like solving very practical problems, like real life things that people are spending money on right now. Those are the type of problems that I try to solve. And if you go after some really practical problems, yeah, you can work through it and you can make it work. So it's very important to make a good decision at the beginning about what you go into, and then get ready to work very, very, very hard and really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So Rohan, can you share with us this one moment of this business venture, one hardest, most difficult moment, that moment when you almost said, "Screw that, I'm doing something else."
Ooh, that's a good one. I have one actually, because when I first started business, I started with. I also had a full time job at the same time. So
Wow.
so I had one time, like, I can think of this one client where it was a very, very difficult client, and she had booked with me a couple times. And the last time she booked with me, she accused us of stealing jewelry, like a bag of jewelry.
Ouch.
Yeah. And, I was still working my job, and I was still, trying to make ends meet just in my household. And I had no way of replacing what would have been like thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. And, she's threatening to go to the police, and it was a whole mess. And I figured at that time that, I was probably a little bit in over my head, you know. And that was the first time that I really felt like, okay, this is probably this is a little bit crazy, and I should probably, maybe, cut my losses right now, take all of my revenue that I have, pay this lady, and call it a day. And so that was probably the lowest point. Luckily, it turned out that the jewelry showed up. It just happened that, she was moving out, and it was in a one bag, and she hadn't unboxed all her products, all of her belongings as yet, and she ended up finding everything.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was like, it was almost a week of complete stress for me, where the amount of money that I would have had to pay her was more than the company was worth at that point.
That's
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
man.
So things worked out, and now if that were to happen, now we have all these things in place. That would be fine. I mean, there's all these processes in place that were not in place at that point. Yeah.
Crazy stuff, man. Okay, so we're approaching the 45-minute mark. Okay, I'll just talk about one thing right now, quickly, and then I'll ask you one last question, and then we'll end the show. So what I wanted to talk about just a little bit right now, in episode number 4 of Extra Paycheck Podcast, I had your business partner, Kevin, from another business, actually, the wetshaveclub.com. And if anybody wants to listen to that show, it's extrapodcast.com/4. You could listen to Kevin talk about wetshaveclub.com, how they built that business, and how interesting that is, actually, the story. So why I'm talking about that? I'm doing actually a promotion for Rohan here for a Facebook group called Groove Learning. How is that going for you?
Thank you for asking about that. So Groove Learning was an idea that Kevin and I came up with because, since we posted about Maids In Black and posted about Wet Shift Club on Reddit, those posts became very, very, very popular. The one on Wet Shift Club is probably the number 2 highest voted post on our entrepreneur of all time. It's crazy. And so because of that, we were getting all these questions. I would get probably about 15 or 20 people contacting me per day.
Wow.
Yeah, and right now it's still about 10, and that was like 6 months ago. We made that post asking for advice and how we would approach different business problems. So we decided to build the Groove Learning Facebook group that would let us kind of be there for people, but not have to be like when we give an answer, that answer could benefit a lot of people as opposed to just one individual person. So the Facebook group, we're up to about 1,500 or 1,600 people now. In a few weeks, it hasn't been that long, and it's been fun.
Yeah, I personally love this group. And I wanted to suggest it to everyone who wants to find out more, let's say, about this housekeeping business, generally helping local businesses get online and find more clients and earning an interesting amount of money while helping the local businesses. I think Groove Learning is a really good place to find out more about Rohan, about the business, how he does it, because Rohan and Kevin, they're being very transparent about everything they do, about, not just what they do, they're also transparent about how much money they make, what works, what doesn't work. So for someone who wants to or who's thinking about starting this kind of business, I think Groove Learning is like a gold mine.
Thank you.
With lots of no problem, with lots of great advice and a lot of people. Like, you have what's really crazy about your group is not just like some group, there's a lot of interesting groups on Facebook, but yours is I've seen so many people actually start businesses because of your group. Mm-hmm. You could actually look at people who joined your group like 3 weeks ago and they start asking questions like, well, what is this kind of service? How do you start it? And then 3 weeks later, the same guy posts, hey, I got my first sale or I got my first client and I started this business. It's really crazy what you guys do and how you guys motivate people. It's really awesome.
Thank you, man. And that feels good to hear because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We don't want to be just a Facebook group where you just come and you look at other people's success and you just sit on the sidelines. We're trying to get people to take action as much as possible. So it feels good to hear you say that.
That's great. That's awesome, man. So one last question for today. What would be your most important suggestion to anyone listening to this podcast who is thinking of starting a business of any kind?
My most important suggestion would be to skip the business plan. And if you do have to make a business plan, make it no longer than 1 page. And what you actually end up doing is the excuses for starting, which is what business plans have become. And you limit that excuse to just 1 page. So that takes you, an hour or two, and everything else is action. And the way how we approach starting businesses is to say, starting a business and making it successful is the result of solving like 1,000 problems. But what people try to typically do in the business plan is to solve those 1,000 problems before they even start. And when you approach it that way, it becomes very, very overwhelming and it becomes very, very difficult to get going. What we do is say, we need to solve one single problem today. Tomorrow, we're going to solve another problem. And that's how we approach it, step by step, piece by piece. You just chip off how much you can chew and no more. And that's how we approach businesses, and that's how we've been able to build businesses over and over again and make them successful by just biting off what we can chew and managing that instead of being overwhelmed by the huge picture that is before us.
Thanks so much, man. Great advice.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it's a tough one, actually. It's the tough truth for a lot of people. And people that do, like you said, spend 4 months just writing the business plan because it has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if you can avoid it altogether, don't do a business plan. Just take action.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it was a great pleasure to have you on the podcast, man. Thank you so much. And I'm sure the listeners will enjoy today's show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's awesome, and it's awesome what you're doing as well. I mean, it's super important to kind of make these connections and demystify some of this stuff. So, good stuff, man.
I hope you enjoyed today's show, and thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. Now, if you head over to extrapodcast.com, you'll be able to find the show notes for today's episode. This is where I will list all the resources, links, platforms, and pretty much everything else that we've talked to with Rohan today. Once again, it's extrapodcast.com/8. Also, I would love it if you could head over to iTunes and rate my show and leave a review for Extra Paycheck Podcast. These ratings and reviews help me get more visibility, and they help me stay motivated and to keep on creating this kind of episodes and inviting these awesome guests to the show. You could find that at extrapodcast.com/iTunes, or simply search for Extra Paycheck Podcast on your iTunes store. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next Monday.